I'm Pastor George Borchardt, and this is another Higher Things video short. Jesus is the I Am. That's the subject of today's Higher Things video short. When you talk about God, you're talking about Jesus. He is the I Am. He is burning bush God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God who told Moses, I am where I am. Jesus, when he says I am, is taking hold of the name Yahweh and saying that name is my name. I'm God. And that will not fly in the world. There's God way up in the sky. There's God who's bigger, almightier, awesomer, all the different ers and almighties and powerfuler and all the other God words there is. And then there's Jesus, lowly, meek, beaten. And as we sort of enter into Holy Week, we enter into Passion Tide. Holy Week's next week, but we're in the Passion Tide, the fourth quarter of Lent. We get the Judaica Gospel from John chapter 8. And Jesus going toe-to-toe with the Pharisees, the Jews. And he says, your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day, and he saw it and was glad. And they answered, you're not 50 years old yet, and you've seen Abraham? And he says, before Abraham was, I am. There it is, right there. Jesus saying that he's God. When people talk about God, we're talking about Jesus. When people talk about God and his attributes, we're throwing that out when it comes to God for us. Lowly in a manger, dead on a cross, alive on Easter morning. We throw out all our definitions about God and about man when it comes to Jesus, and we listen from him to see how God is. You see, you can't beat God. You can't kill God. God is the Almighty. But when God becomes flesh in the man, Jesus, you can pick up stones and throw them at God, and God has to hide. On Judaica Sunday, God hides. But he doesn't hide because he's afraid of men. He hides because it's not yet time for him to die for men. And so what we learn from this week's gospel is the God of the Old Testament is not different from the God of the New Testament. The God of the Old Testament is Jesus. And the God of the New Testament is Jesus. Now, what does this say about the Father? Well, the Father loves us in the giving up of his Son. What does this say about the Spirit? The Spirit delivers that Jesus to us in water, word, body, and blood. So to talk about God now is to talk about Jesus. And here, as we enter the Passion Tide, covered crosses and all, crosses covered, not because we're sad, but because God hid in the temple from his creation. God hid from man, rather man hiding from God. God hid from men in order to save men on Good Friday. Judaica is not the day to die for us. Good Friday is the day to die for us. As we enter into Passion Tide, our eyes are fixed on how God is for us. And there on Good Friday, we're going to see God as we would never, ever have expected before. See, we ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil so that we would be like God. God became flesh in Christ Jesus to be like us, to die for us. In the garden, we tasted what it was like to be like God and know good and evil. And the punishment for that was death. On the cross on Good Friday, Jesus dies our death so that we might live forever. I am Jesus. the God of the Old Testament, the God of the New Testament. Jesus is Jehovah. He's Yahweh. He's the I am. And in the Passion Tide, we see that it means, I am means he's going to save us. I am means he's going to die. I'm Pastor George Borgart, and this has been another Higher Things video short.